Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Real Lawyers podcast. Clio is a company that I've known for a long time, and I've admired their growth. I first met Jack Newton, the company's founder, before the company was even launched back in New York City. At that time, it was called the LegalTech conference. Now it's Legal Week. And we got together and we met each other. It was very social. I don't think I knew that he was even starting a company at that point in time. The first time I did was a month or two later when I ended up at the ABA Tech Show, and met him and saw what he was doing. So I'm excited to have our guest on the podcast, Real Lawyers Podcast, Katie Wyka, who's the performance coach at Clio, the first performance coach at the company.
Yeah.
And Katie, thanks for joining me. I'm excited to talk, coaching, the culture, the vision of Clio with you. And this can be very much a conversation. And selfishly, I enjoy talking to people that I learn from, and I would like to sit down and talk with myself rather than have somebody else do a podcast and say, I wish I asked this or that. But, tell me a little bit about yourself, in the audience. Who is Katie Wyka? What drives her?
Wow. Well, these days I am a performance coach, the in-house coach at Clio, as you mentioned. My handle inside the company is Coach K. So in my 25-year career, this is this chapter that I'm in. My background is in psychology, organizational psychology, leadership and management development, and then having worked for many, many years inside different kinds of organizations and I find myself now in this really amazing organization, Clio. But you'll love this. One of my earlier companies that I worked for was called Creo, spelled C-R-E-O. So I feel like I've come full circle here. Yeah.
Well, obviously, you didn't just show up at Clio's door one day and say, okay, I'm here. You heard about the opportunity. They might have been looking for somebody.
They were.
Why Clio for you? What attracted you to the company at that time?
Yeah, 8 years ago. So I had been in consulting for a long time, so operating as an external consultant and coach. And through my master's studies, I did a sort of a deep dive into mental toughness in the workplace. And my dream at that time was to work with one team or one organization over a period of time so that I could really be with them rather than sort of parachuting in and out, much like a consulting coach, an external coach would do. And so, when this opportunity came to me, it seemed ideal. Like I wanted to really get my arms around a group of people, whether that was a couple folks at the top or whether that was the whole organization, and be able to work with them and not just, hear from time to time how things are going, but to be with them in the mix and helping them develop as they were doing their job.
Why Clio versus, a railroad or a mining company or McDonald's or whatever? But what was it about Clio? You must have spoken to somebody before they offered you a job or something must have intrigued you about the company, but why Clio?
Yeah. Canadian tech. I am all in on helping, an organization like this make it. Right now, they were already well into their success, but when I joined, it was 200 and some odd people, big dreams, a lot of ambition, right? But huge work ahead of it. And it just seemed like this great fit, like very young demographic, right? And here I am coming in, one of the elders, coming into this mix of young, technical, really digitally savvy folks. I thought I could learn a lot from them too. And so I was really thrilled to be able to join at that time.
Was there some, what I hear a lot about Clio when I talk to people that join the company is the vision, the mission, the values. Was there something about the place that you said, I could make this a home for me?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the values, I'm sure you've heard some version of this, but at the time I joined, the folks that were leading the people team were able to help articulate something we call an aspiration towards human and high performing. Like it's sort of the grand experiment, right? How do you help an organization achieve incredible things, right? And become the world leading provider of anything and retain a little bit of that like human connection and having a place people want to be, having it not be a meat grinder as a tech company. So that was the quest, right? And I think I've from my perch as a coaching colleague, got to play a small role in trying to hold that tension between human and high performing.
When you came, are you from the Vancouver area? Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
So you came over to interviewed at Clio. Who'd you get the chance to meet as part of that interview process?
You'll love this. So yeah, the people team that was a very small team at that time, Chris and Lindsay. I spoke with Ryan Gofro, right? He was heading up people at the time. And then they have, when you interview at Clio, and I'm sure it's different per department now, but you do projects. And so I was there for the day and they had me coach three people. One was the head of sales at the time. One was a long time, well, you would know Lauren Sanders, right? And then the head of product. And so if those three different folks could like found me helpful and relatable and I could pass muster with them, I was in.
Yeah.
It was a little anxiety provoking.
Yeah, I mean, people should realize that if you were to ask Cleo, can I visit for the day and kind of get the pulse of the company and maybe learn from something from the people there, they'll say yes. But when you go, somehow you think you're going to go out to lunch or maybe talk with some people for a little while. Oh no! And so, I took myself and three people in our leadership team, our CTO, our COO, and the person that was running Prox. This probably goes back 8, 10 years. We get in the airplane, we fly up from Seattle, and we get over there. And by the last meeting, I was ready to get out of there. I just go, this is so hard. We're going through meeting after meeting, and it was all projects. We're all going to work on something. And at some, it took getting out a piece of paper, drawing things, going through things, and so you learned through the experience that you went through. So I can imagine what it was like sitting there
Yeah.
talking with people so that they
Yeah,
feel comfortable with you and you get a chance to feel comfortable with them.
that's
Uh,
right. They did talk to a number of coaches and they felt my guess, is that they needed someone that could work across the org, up and down the levels, right? So I used to call myself a bit of a Swiss Army knife in terms of my coaching capability because there's so much going on and there's so many different people in different types of roles. I needed to be able to sort of adapt to whatever was needed, right? In terms of who wanted coaching support.
we met each other on LinkedIn. If I'm doing the job I'm supposed to be doing at LinkedIn, I'm basically out at networking events all day, which sometimes might be through publishing in my blogging. A lot of it's through LinkedIn, so the people I meet, and it might be not by, somebody writing a post or me writing a post, it might be somebody that comments on something. You commented on something
That's
and
right.
you said, I have a different approach than other people might have to leading and teams. What is your approach? And what was Cleo looking for you to do and that you thought you could do when you got there?
Yeah. Yeah. Great question. So, a couple of things. When I joined, the mandate was mostly one-to-one coaching. So, coaching individuals, right? That's sort of classic performance coaching, right? And the methodology would be similar for a professionally trained coach, right? Where I've been able to take the coaching work in the organization is to more places where it's needed. So, I'm doing more and more team coaching these days. So I always say solo, doubles, and team coaching. Those are the three sort of buckets you can use coaching for, right?
Right.
Yeah. And so part of the challenge in most organizations is that teams are thrown together and you've got a bunch of smart people, right? And professionally or functionally, they know what they're doing, but they don't always understand how to create strong, high functioning teams. And so that's where I spend more and more time these days on top of sort of individual coaching.
And you used a phrase, what struck me, I guess, was two things. One, I'm intrigued by Cleo as its values. I've gotten to know Jack pretty well, gotten to know his wife, Tanya. I've gotten to know a lot of people in the organization. I've always enjoyed my experience with the company, and I enjoyed what they were doing for people and the law. I always viewed Jack not as a lawyer, so it gave him the opportunity to shape what could be the future of law for lawyers and the recipients of that law from a non-lawyer's perspective, from the user's side. So when I saw you say something that I wanted teams to appreciate, that they could do more as a team, functioning as a team, than a group of individuals that may know how to run that play back and
Yeah.
forth themselves personally. Maybe you described it a little bit just right now, but when does the team know that they're performing high as a team, as a group, so maybe that's working together, as opposed to, players running around the field and running the right play all the
Yeah.
time?
Right.
How do they know when they're starting to get there and get excited about functioning as a team?
Yeah, gosh, that's a great question. So, a couple ways of looking at it, and a couple ways that I would like if a team reaches out to me, or if I see or hear there's stuff going on that I could help with. So, part of it is the external facing, like a team, if their stakeholders are happy with output and outcomes and they're achieving what they set out to do. That's maybe a classic, benchmark. Like we're delivering what we said we'd deliver when we said we'd deliver it. And then the other piece is sort of looking inward, right? Internally. It's not so much harmony, like do we like each other? Although that's always a bonus if you do, right?
All right.
But it's more, are we effective together? Is it hard to get work done with each other? Is there a lot of friction? Right? Are we learning how to be a better as we go along here and deliver the things we're delivering? So there's sort of an external way to diagnose how you're doing as a team, and then there's an internal look. And we want to do both, right? But those are some of the key sort of things I lead with there.
I mean, there's the concept of organization development. And, when you bring in somebody to coach, I mean, the first book they might hand out is the 8 dysfunctions. I think it's 8, of a team.
Right.
And you start to read it and go through the process. And as a leader for me, I think I was asked once, do you think leaders are made or you think they're born? And I said, well, I hope they're made. And the person said, that's good because you're not the greatest leader. And, you have to learn how to take that vision and then you have to attach some strategy to it to make it more meaningful. So that's something I work on very hard again.
Okay.
Going through a period of time and growth in the company and then non-growth in the company, that the vision had become untied to the strategy, or the strategy had not tied to the vision strong enough to let people be, effective when they wanted to be. Is there a difference between the coaching aspect than what we might describe as organizational development and coaching the leaders and then coaching down to other leaders? Is this something different than that?
No, this is an aspect
Is
of
it?
that.
Okay.
So at Clio, you may know we do many things
Right.
because we're a pretty demanding organization to work for.
Right.
And when you are a demanding organization, you need to provide the kind of guidance and support and opportunities to people to, enable the kind of high performance we're always asking of them. And so coaching is sort of one leg on the stool of what we can offer people, right? And so there's programmatic things, and then where I get, this is my passion, is being able to operationalize their goals, their needs, their development, their performance in a way that attending a program or listening to a TED Talk, right, or having a mentoring conversation won't do. Your coach is hopefully, and this is the what I ascribe to, is they've got to be in it with you, helping to figure out, make sense of, right, get traction on those goals, right, commit to doing things differently, commit to improving yourself, right, understanding where you need to grow, right. So the coach is like a thinking partner or a development partner on that side.
What makes Clio fun for people to work there? And so it is a demanding place because of the fact that it's growing like it is. And I
Yes.
don't mean just growth in people, but I mean in the product offerings it may have, in the geographic presence that it has worldwide, and the demands that it takes to deliver those products in a timely fashion year after year after year. What makes it fun for the people? Because people brag about working at Clio.
Yes.
They boast about it to other people, and they don't appear to be lying.
No, you got it. It really is. And they keep me young. They're like there is a culture of connection, right? And wanting to have fun while doing work, right? So we have people come together. We have all the offices you're aware of. And we have events through the year. In our offices, we have Team Day, which brings everyone together in the organization somewhere. I think part of what makes it fun is that it's hard, and we are sort of pioneering in our field, right? That it's pretty lofty goals. And so when we make progress or we achieve them, right, it's very exciting. And so there's always this air of like, there's a vibe. Yeah. When you come hang out with us, it's very alive, if you will. There's rarely a dull moment in Clio.
Yeah, and when I saw the recent acquisition of Vlex, from the private equity company that had Vlex before, and I been inside the offices of American Lawyer Media many times. I've been inside the offices of Thomson Reuters and West before that, and been inside the offices of LexisNexis and Reed Elsevier, and trying to think whether I've been inside of Wolters Kluwer or just spent time a lot with those people. My first company was acquired by Reed Elsevier and LexisNexis.
Oh, okay.
And so you get the feel that as they grow through acquisitions, that you're trying to piece it all together very quickly, get it in front of the salespeople, and make sure you can push it out the door in a cohesive type of way.
Yeah.
Something felt different to me because I knew Ed Walters from Fastcase, and I knew Phil Rosenthal from Fastcase since the 90s. And I knew Jack, since however many years ago, 18 plus years ago, that it seemed to be something built on values. So it wasn't trying to take the products together. It wasn't trying to take the sales together. It wasn't trying to take the customers together and glue them all together to now we have something bigger than the parts, which is tough to do. And I'm just strictly an outsider because I've only was inside, a larger company, LexisNexis and Reed Elsevier for a year and a half, and spiritually maybe for 6 weeks after the acquisition. What is it? Is it the values that can tie these organizations together? The type of people that tie Clio together? I mean, that might be missing someplace else. This is just an outsider's observation. I'm not inside like you are, but there's something going on there that is allowing to move forward in lockstep. Now, I don't see how you're making the
Gosh, I know.
everything.
There's a few layers to that.
Right.
Well, our executive team and all the other teams that are involved in corporate development, acquisitions, they work hard to make sure there's alignment, not only from the product side, but from the people side. Can we work together? Do we care? Like, Jack, many of our leaders, very passionate about the field and the mission, right? And so my guess, and I don't know, I'm not in those rooms,
Right.
but that they've probably had situations where there was not alignment and they didn't move forward, right? But they have found that, as they're very strategically acquiring or bringing in, product and services that help fulfill the mission. That's
Right.
always held out as the most important thing, right? And then the integration is always an interesting story.
Right.
Not without its challenges.
Right.
But we've also, if you look at Clio's history, it's sort of one every year or two. Now we've done hopefully 2 this year.
Right.
VLEX hasn't closed yet, but that pacing it out like that makes it so that we can get our arms around and make the integration work. And so you learn a lot that way too.
Yeah, because it's not just important to the people of Clio, it's important to the people that Clio has as customers, the lawyers.
Absolutely.
I mean, I was a practicing lawyer for 17 years, and there's not many more jobs that are anxiety driven than as a lawyer. How do I get all this done? How do I support my family? It's very, very stressful. And so solutions that can come to pass that help do that, and where you feel a network of other people around you that are doing that same thing through this organization, it certainly helps.
Yes.
So, I will go on to some other things, but I want to thank you personally for what you're doing at Clio to contribute to the law. And I take the law just not as the law that we interpret and
Right.
apply to situations, but the people that work within the law,
Yeah.
because it's a noble calling.
Yeah.
So it's
Thank
great to
you.
see what you're doing.
Yeah, my pleasure. No, and we get to hear so many customer stories at Clio. That's another thing we're really big on.
Yeah.
We have a lot of touch points, right? As employees, we're constantly meeting, hosting, going to hold the Clio conference, of course. I've been twice now. I ran something called the coaching zone at the conference a couple times. So I got to meet with customers, Clio customers, and spend time with them and give them a taste of coaching. And so that's another big thing at Clio. It's very evident who we're working for there in everything we do.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
We're referring to ClioCon now.
Yeah.
When was the first one you went to? It sounds like you've been to a couple, but when was
Yeah,
the first one?
2018 and then 2019.
When you went to the first one, what's the moment you most remember and you go, okay, this is a little bit different. This is real interesting. It might have been somebody you walked into, you talked with, what you saw. What do you remember?
Yeah. I remember watching, the opening bit, right? Where we come running in as the part of the conference, and then turning, and then we get to see everyone's face in the crowd and the look of like adoration, right? And shining eyes. I had in a business conference, I'd never seen anything like that. And then of course we run out to the music and Jack comes on and yeah, it was really neat.
Yeah, and I think people have to, what they're seeing is you get a couple thousand or 3,000 people out in chairs. The stage is there, and the next thing you know, somebody's saying, "Okay, where's all the Clio people?" And they're running out in T-shirts in front of this audience,
There we were. Yeah.
bouncing up and down. Where was that one at? Do you remember what city that was at?
That would have been the New Orleans.
Okay,
Yeah.
so when you got on the airplane to leave New Orleans and now you're leaving ClioCon, what were you thinking? What were you reflecting about the meaning of ClioCon as an event that brings people together, not only your team, but the people that attended?
Yeah. Yeah. It was huge. There was so much that happened, and you'll love this funny story. When we set up the coaching zone, there was 4 of us coaches that were offering like half-hour slots people could sign up for. And we said we needed some separation between, the seats so that people didn't feel uncomfortable sharing the thing they were going to bring to coaching. And when we got there, they didn't have any dividers. They had black curtains that they'd hung. So there was 4 like black curtained velvet tents. So I was inside this little sort of black tent for 2 days straight. But people would come in and they didn't know me. They didn't really know what coaching was, but these were guests and attendees, and they came in and they were, to a person, right? Passionate about what they were doing, very driven, very demanding in terms of what they expect from Clio, what they expect from themselves. Like that was evident. So I just was laughing at that. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I sat in a little tent for 2 days and met all these incredible people, and that they were willing to come in. They had that much trust in Clio, right? That they would come and spend some time with a stranger in a little room and share their challenges. And we tried to work through some of that.
So you were making a real and meaningful difference in people's lives by just being there and doing what you did.
Yeah. And they let us.
Yeah. And they let you.
In coaching, it kind of takes 2 to tango. You can't, right? You need both people that are all in.
Who came up with the idea to do that? Okay, we're going to have personal coaching, and we're going to
we
have
did
it. But your team said, "Okay, let's go do it, and we can do it this way." Yeah, kudos to you guys, because that's not. I have not seen that at other conferences.
No, that's not as common, and it's not as common to have in-house coaches still. Like when I started 8 years ago, this was not a common thing to have someone on staff like this, and it's a little more common now, but not as much as I had hoped or thought it would be.
Yeah. So, going back to where you started, when you were going in high school or college, whatever, not all of us know, not any of us really know for sure where we're going to end up, but we have some idea. What was driving you, as a young person to go someplace?
Oh gosh, I have vivid memories as a young person, like high school, university, job. I had a million jobs, of course, before I got my real job. And I always wanted to understand what made it work inside the company. So without having any language for that as a young person, I was always watching, like, how is that boss talking to that person? Or like, why are we organized this way? Or what are these people doing? Like, or how come we're not doing this better, right? Like always a hunger to understand how this works and how to make it better. And so, yeah, I had no idea there was such a thing as a coach as a profession, right? That only came later. But I knew that I wanted to do something that involved helping companies and something that involved understanding psychology at a deeper level.
Yeah. I mean, you think about the company and it comes together. You got a head of sales, you got your CFO, you got the head of HR, you have your executive team. And they're all trying to perform against key performance indicators and what we got to get done. And you're sitting there looking at how can we do this better or how can we do it differently? All this different things going on. Yeah, it takes all sorts. I'm now talking to somebody that I didn't know looked at the world that way.
Yeah.
As the rest of us were trying to figure out what to do from day to day.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Right. And maybe if you remember when you started working professionally, you come into an organization, school can't prepare you for that. Right. So you come into a system or a set of systems, and there's all the like obvious stuff, like the values on the wall, right? Or you get your computer, you have someone you report to, right? You have a job that you need to do, but you have no idea how it actually works. How do you make things happen, right? How do you influence? How do you know, right? How to, push something forward, right? So I love being in a position where I can help, especially new leaders that join the company, help them accelerate that. How do things work here? Now we have an amazing onboarding and orientation. Like we have all kinds of other things that we do for people when they join us. But I love that opportunity as a coach to quickly see where are they struggling, what's still very confusing, what feels harder than it needs to be, what do they feel nervous about, what do they feel really good about, right? And to have very real, confidential sort of support system that's happening in parallel to getting their feet on the ground and getting going. I wish I had that when I was
Right.
starting out and professionally, right?
Yeah, and I mean, what you guys do is somewhat open on the internet because it's been swallowed up by large language models, including GPT. So an organization like us, I get disappointed if somebody didn't use a partner in AI. It may not be accurate, but it might be the person on their side that can bring about ideas. And I'll tell you more than once, I've gone and I've said, what would Clio do under this circumstances? Who at Clio does this? What type of form, and it might come back with some things that turned out to be somewhat accurate. So you guys are a role model to companies with what you're doing, not by the people that just come to ClioCon, but other ways. When you're coaching groups as opposed to individuals, because when you have the individual there, that's between the velvet, things like at the show is different than coaching a team, where you've got multiple personalities, and we can be sensitive to what might be being felt like, oh, am I being criticized or something like this? How does that go about when you're coaching teams, and how big is a team that you might be coaching at one time?
Yeah, great question. It can be 2 people, 3 people. It can be 10 people, right? It can be more than that. There's all different formations of teams, as you know, right? And so, yeah, it is sensitive because the team is my client, not the individual now. So I'm coaching what's happening between them, right? And so up front, I try. It doesn't always, again, it depends. Sometimes a leader is coming to me saying, I'd really love you to come and help us out, right? So they sort of engage with me. Sometimes I just stick my nose in when I hear things across the wires there. Say, hey, guys, gals, I'm hearing things. Maybe you could use some time with me on board to help do some coaching work. So, and yeah, when you're working with a team, it's really important that they are firmly in the driver's seat, right? That's how coaching might be different than other types of help. So we have to spend time figuring out what is going on, what's working, what's not working, right? How are they feeling about it, right? Where do they think they need to go? Right?
As a
It's
group.
very dynamic. Yeah. It's a very dynamic process. It's hard. That's why I love it.
How long does it go for? Let's say there's a situation where you say, I've heard this across the wires, like you said, and maybe I could help. What do you guys think? Somebody says, yeah, I think you could help. How long does that process continue?
Yeah. Sometimes I'm working together with a team for like a year. Sometimes it's a couple conversations. Again, it really depends on what's going on and what they think they need. But I'm a bit of a forcing function to having the kinds of interpersonal conversations that need to happen. I love being able to start off with a team because then we start to start off on the right foot, but also obviously come into a team that's hit some hard times or some struggles, right? Or some challenges that they're really trying to figure out. So it can work both ways. But I always love the chance to help groups start off on a bit of a better foot.
If somebody's working with a counselor, obviously everything that they say and everything the counselor advises, whatever, it's not put out in a report to everybody in the outside world. Is this conversation and this teamwork kept confidential as to what's going on in these discussions?
Yeah. So my commitment to anyone at Clio when we're doing coaching is that it's confidential on my end. I can guarantee that. I'm not going to share anything with anyone else without their full permission. Right? Because that's not even the point. I'm not reporting out, right? That's not the role. But we talk about it especially as a team, because now it's their commitment to each other. Like, what do they want to, what I try to advise teams is early in the coaching work to just keep it to ourselves. Allow yourselves to get into it and make some progress together before you start sharing or because one of the big dysfunctions in an organization is when people, the telephone game, opinions or pieces of information get out without any context, it can be quite damaging, right? It can be quite misunderstood. And so when I'm working with a team, I like to try to get them to say to each other, hey, if we're going to be talking about some sensitive stuff, let's make a commitment to keep this amongst us, right? And of course, they all are responsible for reporting out to their leaders and their teams, their business. But I like with a team to be able to see if I can get them to hold it in the circle, if you will, until we get to a place where people are feeling like the things that they were working on are a bit more resolved, right? They're a bit more clear. There's a better story coming out the other side.
Are there low points for you where you just go, okay, this is hard right now. Am I doing good enough? Where you worry about how you're doing?
Always, right?
Always.
I'm always very conscious. Yeah, like I don't lose sleep thinking, my gosh, I have never had imposter syndrome. It's not that kind of an experience. It's more, because it's sort of art and science, right? Helping a group or a person develop or get better at what they want to get better at. You can't guarantee that. And so I'm ever keen and hopeful to get folks where they want to be, but they got to do the work. So I'm only sort of holding half the sandwich, right? And sometimes, like I do doubles coaching, right? That's when two people are having a challenge and I come in to work with both of them together. And sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes they can't get past the thing that happened or their personalities. So some changes are made. Yeah, and it doesn't feel great, but that's reality. That's people, and so I have to accept that.
Yeah, we're not going to disclose names, subject, teams, or whatever. What's been the greatest win? We just go, that was great. I feel great about what we got done. We're really rolling. Is there a particular moment or event?
There's so many moments.
But is there even one at Clio where you just go, wow? Could be anything. Could be, wow, we're moving, whatever. This organization's going to grow, whatever it is. Is there something? Is there one thing you remember one day sitting there going, this is working, maybe this group or overall?
Yeah. Oh, well, I am, classic like coaching nerd here. So I work so much behind the scenes, right? And so I understand what's going on for individuals and teams, all that behind the scenes stuff, right? And so when I see a team come out the other side and win an award for being the best team and knowing what they had to do to get there, I've had lots of wonderful, really like special moments, in my opinion, of teams that were, they're willing to put themselves on the line to make it work and like strive to, sort of come out of what can be a very, individual viewpoint on like, what am I getting and how do I get what I want and how do I getting them to a place where they really understand that the collective, the team is more important and that we have to figure out how we're going to make this work. And there's just all these light bulb moments, right? And one of my favorite moments was I coached a triad, which is in R&D. A triad is the product manager, the design leader, and the software, like the development manager. That's one of the models in R&D. And that 3-person unit is sort of a leader of a software team, right? And I had been coaching them for about a year, and then I didn't see them through the pandemic, through D by D world. I came back in touch this last year with a couple of them and I said, hey, they all had moved on to other teams. And I had asked, super curious, right? Like of all that work we did, what stuck with you? And they said, yeah, we don't need you anymore because we know how to do it. That for me is the win, right? Like, okay, they understand now, they get it. They're taking full responsibility for how effective they are as a team. And so that's my mission at Clio, right? My little mission from where I sit. Yeah.
How many people have you touched now? How many years have you been at Clio?
Yeah, 8 years.
How many people do you think you've touched at Clio over 8 years?
8 years.
Katie Wyka has actually got to talk to touch, to work with. What would you hazard a guess? Maybe
I do know. It's about 1,200. Yeah, between all the coaching engagements over the years, of course, turnover and new people joining. So there's, I think, just over 1,600 of us now. But yeah, over the years, probably upwards of 1,200, 1,300, whether it's spot coaching, turn to work coaching, leadership coaching, team coaching. It's a lot. Like, and again, I love this role. It's the organization is like a kaleidoscope to me. You know, some people are loving it. Some people are having really hard times. Some people think it's the best thing since sliced bread. Some people are like, it's another, I've been in these tech companies, but like there's just this range. Everyone's experience is different in the organization. And so I try to take it all in, right? And help the process of having people feel connected to the org and working on things that matter.
A lot of listening.
You got it. Have you ever worked with a coach, Kevin?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That 1,200 is a stunning number. And I say that from the perspective as Clio grew, and I would talk to Jack and say, how you doing? And he would get very stressed by not knowing everybody's names. And so it was up when it got over 100, he still knew everybody's names.
Yeah.
And then, I think it was actually a football player. He used to play for the Green Bay Packers, and he got to the team he's at today, and they don't wear the players' names on the backs. And so at his first, in his training camp before the season starts, well, how's it going? He goes, it's very stressful because I don't know everybody's names anymore because the new players are showing up and I'm the new kid on the block and I don't know everybody's names.
Yeah.
You're getting to know these players in this organization and everybody there extremely well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a real privilege for me.
I was just going to say it's a privilege.
Yeah.
It's a privilege. And then you have the privilege of moving this team along all together. There's a lot of people that you're doing, or you get the privilege of working with along the way.
Totally. And trying to remember and again, the thrill of having been there 8 years. Some people I've been coaching with almost for 8 years. They use coaching as a place, like a safe place to make sense of what's going on, right? And that was what I wanted when I came here, right? Was to work with many people over time, but be in it with them, not separate from what they're going through.
You're talking today to listeners that don't have employees, don't have the ability to afford to have someone of your capability, and the people that might work with you personally coaching people. They certainly try to do things in organization development, although I've been to law firms that aren't very good at it. And work with people that don't have a lot of empathy for it. What do you tell the small organizations? I mean, because there's going to be law firms that show up at ClioCon that might have 2 lawyers and maybe have 4 other people on the team trying to get a lot of stuff done, but they still got to work together as a team.
Yeah.
What are the responsibility of those people to work together as a team, and what's the responsibility of the leaders of the team to try to do that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I guess again, it kind of depends. When I hear people say, "Oh no, we don't do that," or we wouldn't invest like that in the kind of development for people or in-house resources, it's a really curious thing for me because I think, well, what's the value of effective work, right? Why is it that you wouldn't? It's kind of like when you say, "I would never hire a personal trainer," or "I would never pay a marketing expert to help me out." It's like, well, then you're not going to get as good as you want to. Right? Yeah. Why wouldn't you invest for a period of time in getting the right kind of support or help or guidance, right? Or coaching. So I would always question that up front.
It's a good question.
Yeah. And it is, for a smaller organization to have someone on staff, maybe that doesn't make sense, but there's lots of ways to get the kind of help that you need.
Yeah, we at one time traded it. It was an organization development person that worked with the National Basketball Association here in town and worked with large corporations in Seattle that were growing. And for doing his work on the net, he came in and worked with me, and then he worked with the team members as groups. And it was helpful at that time. And then that gap broke based on different things in the company, and then different things along the way, impacted that. And as I get older, there's sometimes a disconnection with the younger people on the team, and there can be challenges of apathy on the team where we're further along. How do we keep that all alive? And I'll just share one thing that I did with 15 lawyers in a law firm, and I think maybe we had 35 or 40 employees, and this is back in the early 90s. And I realized the associates were coming in following my track of working from 9 in the morning till 11 or 12 at night, but going home to train for marathons and eat dinner. But I pulled them aside at 7 in the morning every Monday and I said, I only have 2 questions for you. What are you most proud about in your personal lives over the last week? And what are you most proud about in your professional lives over the last week? It very much brought a meaningful approach to a team because people learned about each other and they seemed to have greater empathy for the other people and what was going on in their lives. And it may sound strange, but that just started here at Lexbog again after it probably was done years ago by me when I started the company.
Yeah.
Within the last 3 or 4 weeks, and you find something like an individual that we had no idea that he and his wife came up with the idea for doing soccer camps outside of Cincinnati for disadvantaged youth.
Yeah.
Wow. Where the parents would not have means to buy, soccer shoes, soccer equipment, and those kids would never have the opportunities that other kids have. And then to hear the details of what he and his wife to organize a very large event in summer camp, now in its 2nd year, to hear about, how somebody's spouse spends the full weekend in the hospital as a nurse. So it's called, what she does over the weekend. And then the husband gets to spend time with the kids and then hear the meaningful things they get to do it here, where they may have developed an AI solution through an idea on their own and how they applied it in an effort to serve. So that's, for me, that's the little way that I can coach with the team or to schedule a meeting and say, what's the most, with a group of 3 people, what's the most tedious thing you have to do? How could we help you with that?
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's a form of coaching, teamwork, or what that even is. That's what I'm trying right now.
Well, you're onto something, right? Because you see and you feel it in yourself when you know a little bit about someone, you're more likely to listen, to give them the benefit of the doubt, to do something for them, to respond to them, right? So building those relationships is critical.
Yeah, I mean, and to have a co-employee basically want to stand up and clap when they hear these things and to realize, I mean, it's moving. And you're right. That's exactly what it did, though. It causes you to pause and say, this is a person we need to listen more to.
Yeah. Yeah, you got it. I know. And in our space, we're all distributed, right? We're all over the place. Maybe you are too a bit.
Right.
And so it's not as natural to just be together and working together. So we have to sort of force that getting to know you and getting to know who you've got on the team and what the skills are. So I have a whole series of conversations with the kinds of questions that you just shared that when we're helping a group sort of get to know who have we got here, right? That it's not just name, location, employee number. It's like, no, we're all very real people with real strengths and stories and experiences that we can bring to bear on this project.
More than a skill set, who we are as people.
Yeah.
Why it might even be a privilege to work with this person as to who they are, not the particular skills they have.
Yeah, that's right.
No, it's fascinating. Mm-hmm. Katie, I could sit here selfishly and have a conversation with you, for a long time. I've learned a lot. I've gotten a sneak peek into why Clio does the things it does or experiences what it does. Why is this organization doing so well? Mm-hmm. And I kind of imagine you going down the hallway on the few days that Jack's not traveling and maybe him giving you a high five or something like that.
For sure, right? Yeah, I live on the island, so I'm not as much in the office, but when I do go in, I do exactly that. I walk down the halls, I peer between the ferns in the lounge, I try and find everybody, give them a hug and a high five. It's really special.
Yeah, and I would advise anybody that's watching to take advantage of traveling up to Clio, because if you ask anybody at ClioCon and say, can I visit? Can I bring somebody on my team? The answer you will get is please do. It is not a nuisance to have Clio do that.
Not at all. No.
The only thing that might be real scary is when you have to get in front of everybody, and it's not everybody because everybody's all over the place, but in front of lunch, where they might put you on and ask you a few questions at the same time.
Quid pro quo. Yeah. If you're
I've been there. So, Katie, again, it's thank you for taking the time to
My
chat with
pleasure.
us here and our audience. It's really good stuff. Listeners, if this is the first time you checking out, or even if it's not, be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcast or watch the video format, on YouTube. Thanks again, Katie, and everybody else. And again, this is brought to you by LexBlog, and it's the Real Lawyers Podcast, produced by the LexBlog Publishing Network, which is now the world's largest legal publishing network, approaching 1 million published works by individual legal practitioners, over 62,000 individual publishers, approaching 3,000 publications. And now we're opening that up to open access to legal publishing and running the original publishing platform for all legal professionals, no matter where they publish with our platform or not. So it's an honor to have guests like you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin.